This is an excerpt from the Doctor and Ghost story. This is a horror story. A real story that took place 70 years ago. It's a story of an American journalist who came to India to know about Aghori and to know about illusions and powers. Aghori. Who are Aghoris? What do they actually do and why do they only come out in public during comes? Aghor, Aghad, Kapalik, Aghori, Aghar. Awadhut means the same, which is simple and natural state of consciousness. The Aghori is a very vast subject, but here it is being explained in brief a very little bit, as the readers may be able to know about the Aghori and their acts who are engaged in post-mortem rituals on dead bodies. Mainstream Dharma, Sanatana Dharma, believes that ultimate goal of life is to attain salvation, but it is not at the cost of worldly pleasures. This is according to Vedas Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha. Sannyas are mandatory in mainstream Dharma and one should not willingly skip any of the above, and Sanatana Dharma emphasize on individual contribution to society. Aghoris, the most fascinating alchemists. Aghoris are the most advanced tantrics. They have mastered the Tantra Sastra, which is also a branch of yoga. The entire space which we call a Seychelles seems to be an empty, but in reality, it is full of unseen energies. The Seychelles is filled with energies which are nothing but, positively, negatively and neutrally charged atoms and molecules of elements. In science, these are called electrons, protons and neutrons. These are also called as electrolytes, which mean carrying positive, negative and neutral energies or polarities. All the physical forms are the essential building blocks of this basic form of these three energies. Aghoris are the most powerful alchemists and they can associate various atoms from the space and form a physical structure, and they can also change the physical structure into any other different physical form. In short, they are the best molecule manipulators. When the structures are changed, their functions are changed automatically. The Aghoris always live a secondary life, mostly in the jungles or in the graveyards. They can be compared to the scientists who also invent different elements by the manipulation of atomic structure or a particular substance. There is a very fascinating story about these Aghoris narrated by the famous Paul Brunton, an American journalist, who was specially sponsored by some of the rich people and sent to India to find out various genuine saints, yogis having Yajakarmastis powers. He also learned about these Aghoris and he arrived at one place in order to have an interview with one Aghori who was supposed to stay at a remote place at the outskirts of a certain village. There he enlisted a local person who initially was reluctant to follow Paul Brunton to meet the so-called Aghori and interview him, because the local guy was very much scared of this Aghori. A lot of rumors was spread about the Aghoris. Finally, Paul Brunton arrived at the spot where the Aghori was staying alone. When the Aghori noticed these two people approaching him, he tried to scare them by throwing stones. The local guy was very much scared, but the Paul Brunton pursued him that the Aghori was trying to scare us, as the stones were directed at a wrong place, as the Aghori only wanted to scare them and dissuade them not to approach him. But Paul Brunton courageously approached this Aghori, and all of a sudden, the Aghori had become calm and quiet and with a lot of courtesy invited Paul Brunton and offered him a seat on a stone. Then he turned to the local guy and addressed him in the local language, stating that the Paul Brunton was his guest, and in order to honor his guest, he ordered this local guy to cut a small piece from the dead body which was lying on a bank of a small lake near his ashram. The local guy was damn scared, but he was more scared about the Aghori than the dead body. Aghori gave him a small knife and the local guy, gathering his bits, slowly approached the dead body reluctantly with closed eyes. He cut a small piece of flesh from his dead body. Paul Brunton was very much surprised by watching this drama as a spectator. Finally, the local guy came back and handed over the small piece of flesh which he took out from the dead body. Then this Aghori noticed that this local guy cut his finger while attempting to cut the flesh from the dead body. The blood was running down, and this Aghori placed his hands on the bleeding finger and said, "Oh my God, you are bleeding. Don't worry. Now your small wound is healing." When the Aghori removed his hand, there was no trace of any blood or that small cut, which was also noticed by Paul Brunton. Again, the Aghori went inside. He took out a clay pot, poured some water, placed his vet, the flesh from the dead body, and he started cooking on the fire. Without any word, Paul Brunton was watching the drama as he was very much astonished. After a while, the Aghori brought some leaves of a nearby tree, washed them with water, and he placed a couple of round structures which were looking like small balls on these leaves. One leaf he offered to local guy and the other one to the Paul Brunton, and to his shock, the local guy noticed it was nothing but rascula. It was not dead flesh. It was not the flesh from the dead body. The local guy explained to Paul Brunton it was called rascula, which was a sweetmeat. Then the Aghori politely offered these rascalas to Paul Brunton. When tasted by Paul Brunton, it was so sweet and a lot of juicy syrup was oozing out, and both of them enjoyed. This is how that Aghori who mastered the Tantra Sastra, the science of Tantra, changed the molecular structure of this flesh from the dead body and transformed to rascula by changing the molecular structure. This is what is called as a manipulation of the atom of molecular structure. You disassociate a particular physical structure and rearrange the atoms of the molecules from the same physical structure to rebuild another physical structure. When the structure changes, the function will also change. That is why we call the Aghoris are the most powerful and effective alchemists. But they are misunderstood by a lot of people, because no person will be daring enough to approach them and study them from close quarters. Rumors always spread in a negative way, and the people will go on adding their own whims and fancies and often depict Aghoris as bad guys. The knowledge is very powerful, for that matter any knowledge, and even what the modern scientists are doing nowadays. When Alfred Nobel discovered dynamite, the same dynamite was used in breaking the rocky structures to build the houses. The same dynamite is also used by the terrorists to destroy the human beings. The same way, same is the case with Aghoris. By mastering the Tantra Sastra and by practicing certain rituals, they have evolved themselves to higher dimensions where they are capable of manipulating the energies of the five elements: the earth, the water, the fire, the wind, and the space. By manipulating the atomic structures of these five elements, Aghoris can easily change the physical structures into different physical structures carrying out different functions. They can change a solid particle to the liquid particle, like from the element earth to the element water. Same, they can change into element fire, and the element of fire to other two elements. This was the experience of Paul Brunton had when he encountered this particular Aghori. For them, the dead body, it is the combination of five elements. Hence, they do not fear the dead bodies or the dead. That is why they roam around the jungles and graveyard, where human beings do not visit. In our Pranas, Maharshi Durvasa created Kurchya, the most dangerous and negative entity, to kill Ambarisha, who was rescued. Protected and rescued by Lord Mahavishnu, and Sage Durvasa had to ask for a forgiveness for Ambarisha. We dismiss this as a myth, but late Sri Narayanadutta Srimali had wrote a book who himself was a great tantric. In this book, he narrated an incident where a most powerful Aghori created this Kurchya in order to create and havoc among the other Aghoris and yogis who assembled for a meeting. Then the most respected and tantric Guru Sri Nityananda Swami, who was a benevolent sage, destroyed this Kurchya with his powers. These are the powers of Aghoris. Some are used for benevolent purpose and some others used to scare people and become a leader. Ajayachara Rishi. In Sri Radham from Yajurvedam, you shall come across Aghori Rishi. Could be another name of Lord Shiva. Aghori or Aghora are people whose principles derive from Advaita of Sanatana Dharma perform spiritual practices to get salvation. The Aghoris, Sanskrit Aghora, are ascetic Shiva sadhus. The Aghori are known to engage in post-mortem rituals. Aghora may refer to the Hindu god Bhairava, a form of Shiva. Aghoris feel that the sadhana in cremation ground removes fear. To get rid of sexual desires, Aghorists sometimes does sexual practice on the dead bodies.
Typecast.
To avoid shame, Aghorists all the time stay naked. Most of the people are afraid and scared of Aghorists because of their powers, and Aghori have number of names in the country. The Aghori is also known as Kapalika and Kelamukas. The Aghori goes on practicing this. Soul of the Aghori is set free and it obtains moksha. The culture of Aghori was started by a person, Baba Kinaram. He was said to have lived for 150 years. He died in the 18th century as his followers continued to spread his teachings. Some fear that Aghori knows little about their practices, and Aghori practices mostly on children, which people are afraid of them. For this reason, Aghori are considered responsible for crime or the other. Some people also feel and have apprehensions that Aghori kills innocent people. It is not fiction, but it is a fact. However, this may not be true, as Aghori perform sadhana on dead bodies, but they do not kill people for their needs. Some people believe that Aghori has superpowers and they want to make the most of these powers and get benefited. Some Hindus say that it is true that Aghori can help with a lot of problems, but if we seek help from an Aghori to solve a problem, it may give rise to many more problems. The Aghori never bother about what society feels about them, and they live secret lives without any intention to get social recognition. Aghori's holy book is called Avajuta Gita. This Avajuta Gita holy book contains a sacred text or all their teachings and beliefs. The book specifies that Baba Kinaram was the founder and the Adaguru of Aghori tradition.
Typecast.
The book also justifies that Lord Shiva spent most of his time in cremation ground doing sadhana. Aghori accessories. Some say that Baba Kinaram was the incarnation of Lord Shiva himself. The Hindus do believe that Lord Dattatreya was the incarnation of Lord Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva all in single body. The Aghori goes into complete darkness and lives till they get self-realization, and they use corpses to invoke the mother goddess, known as Shamshantara. They consider Shamshantara as one of the 10 wisdom goddesses, and she has the power to bless the Aghori with supernatural powers. The Mahavadiyas that the Aghori religiously worship is Bhairavi, Bakalamiki, and Tumavati. The male god which the Aghori worships is Lord Shiva in the form of Bhairava, Mahakalai, and Virabhadra. Let us try to find out from a neutral perspective about the truths behind these and how the Aghoris themselves perceive this. 1. An Aghori performs all seemingly nasty acts because it is a way to realize that nothing is impure or unclean. 2. If one can see purity in everything, that is the highest state of divine bliss. 3. At the core of the seemingly raw and savage status is a highly realized soul who is above all dualities of nature. Please note that this only holds good for genuine Aghori status, and not anyone pretending to be one. A copyright story. Dr. MANTRI PRAGADA MARKANDEYULU. Novelist, story and songwriter, lyricist. Become DBM PGDCA DCCP. Hyderabad, Telangana State, India. Marknil@gmail.com. Twitter @Marknil68. Plus 91-99510-38802. Plus 91-818-694-5103.